Stop right there. Hands where I can see them.
What's the problem? I'm just locking my door.
You're under arrest. We got a report of someone breaking into this building.
Breaking in? I live here. FBI, Special Agent Davis.
Anyone can buy a badge online. Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Officer Jason Webb had spent 8 years working for the Boston Police Department when he made a choice that would destroy his entire career. At 33 years old, he responded to a burglary report and became convinced that a black man walking into an upscale apartment building simply couldn't be a resident there. It happened on a Tuesday night in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood. A white resident dialed 911, claiming someone suspicious was attempting to break into the building, completely ignoring the fact that the person was actually using a legitimate key card to enter. The man in question was Kenneth Davis, a special agent with the FBI who'd been serving for 17 years. He was just getting back home after hitting the gym. Even though Davis showed his federal ID right away, even though his name was clearly displayed on the mailbox, even though he had proper key card entry, Webb still placed him under arrest right there in his own hallway. That single decision ended up costing the city $7.44 million in Webb's entire profession. It also proved a painful reality. Sometimes even being inside your own home isn't enough to protect you when you're black. Before we go on, let me ask, where are you watching this from? If you're new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. These kinds of stories matter, and when you support us, it helps bring more truth into the open. The Residences at Back Bay is a high-end apartment complex located on Commonwealth Avenue, right in one of Boston's fanciest areas. It's got doorman service, security cameras, key card entry, and a marble-floored lobby. If you want to rent even a one-bedroom there, you're looking at a starting price of $4,500 every month. The building is filled with doctors, attorneys, business leaders, and successful young professionals who have really made it. It was 7:15 in the evening on that Tuesday in September. The workday rush was winding down. People were arriving home from the office, stopping by the gym, placing takeout orders. Everything in the building was calm, secure, and ordinary. Special Agent Kenneth Davis had dedicated 17 years of his life to the FBI. That's 17 years handling cases that demanded both physical bravery and sharp investigative skills. He'd spent 12 of those years on the Violent Crimes Task Force, tracking down fugitives, solving kidnapping cases, and investigating organized violence that spread across state borders. Before that, he worked 3 years in the Organized Crime Division and 2 years focusing on bank robberies. He'd also led manhunts that spanned multiple states, testified in dozens of federal courtrooms, and personally captured armed suspects. His bosses called him fearless and exact. His coworkers said he was the agent everyone wanted, backing them up when situations turned dangerous. At 43, Kenneth Davis had become one of the FBI's sharpest violent crimes investigators. He was respected across federal law enforcement circles and trusted with assignments that called for both hands-on tactics and smart strategy. That Tuesday evening, Davis was simply coming back from his workout. He'd clocked out of the FBI field office at 5:30 p.m., walked 3 blocks to his gym, and spent 90 minutes lifting weights and running. Now he was heading back to his place to take a shower, grab some food, and go over case files before the next day's briefing. He had on black gym shorts, a gray FBI Academy t-shirt damp with sweat, running shoes, and he was carrying a gym bag slung over one shoulder. His apartment key card was already in his hand. His FBI credentials were tucked inside the gym bag. He never left home without them. Davis had been living at the Residences at Back Bay for 4 years now, in Unit 812, a one-bedroom with a nice view of the Charles River. He'd worked incredibly hard to be able to afford a place like that. His name was officially on the lease, on the mailbox, and in the building's security database. He'd waved hello to the doorman literally thousands of times by now. He stepped into the building lobby, gave a wave to Michael, the evening doorman, swiped his key card at the security gate, and made his way toward the elevator. Just another Tuesday, just another regular evening heading home. But up on the 6th floor, someone was watching the security camera footage, and they didn't like what they were seeing. Patricia Wentworth was 58 years old. She'd been living at the Residences at Back Bay for 12 years, owned a unit on the 6th floor, and sat on the building's resident advisory board. She was retired, financially comfortable, and spent way too much time obsessing over building security. She'd sit in her apartment for hours watching the live feed from the lobby security cameras. She told herself it was all about keeping things safe. In reality, it was about control, fear, and a racism she refused to acknowledge. That evening, Patricia was staring at the feed when Davis walked into the lobby. She saw a black man in workout clothes, carrying a gym bag, sweating. She didn't recognize him, despite the fact he'd lived there for 4 years. In her mind, he just didn't look like someone who should be living in a luxury building like this. She watched him swipe his key card, clear proof he had authorized access. She watched him walk toward the elevator, completely normal behavior for any resident. Nothing about what he was doing suggested anything criminal or threatening. But Patricia's biased mind had already made its decision about what she was looking at. Black man means he doesn't live here, must be breaking in somehow. Maybe he stole someone's key card. Maybe he's planning to rob apartments. Better call the police. She picked up her phone and called 911. I'm calling from the residences at Back Bay on Commonwealth Avenue. There's a suspicious person who just came into our building. Black male, looks about 40, wearing workout clothes and carrying a bag. I think he's trying to break into apartments. The dispatcher started asking the usual questions. Did he force his way in, break any locks? No, but he used a key card to get inside. I don't recognize him. He doesn't live here. Ma'am, if he has a key card, that likely means he has authorized access. I've lived here 12 years. I know who belongs here and who doesn't. This man is suspicious. The call got logged and sent out as a dispatch. Possible burglary in progress. The residences at Back Bay, 145 Commonwealth Avenue. Black male, around 40, athletic clothing, carrying a bag, reported as a suspicious person by a resident. Officer Jason Webb was 6 blocks away when the call came through his radio. Do you think residents should face consequences for calling police on their neighbors based purely on racial bias? Drop your answer below. Jason Webb had been working for the Boston Police Department for 8 years. During that time, he'd built up a record that told a very clear story. 15 complaints. 13 of those complaints involved stops or arrests of black people in wealthy neighborhoods, situations where Webb questioned whether they actually belonged there. A black postal worker delivering mail, Webb held him for 30 minutes, demanding he prove he actually worked for USPS. A black woman walking into her own condo building, Webb questioned her for 15 minutes until she finally proved she lived there. A black businessman walking to his car, Webb ran his license plates, assuming the vehicle had been stolen. It hadn't. Webb had a clear pattern. He'd see black people in wealthy white neighborhoods and automatically assume they were criminals. 6 of those complaints had been upheld, leading to written warnings and required training sessions. 7 others were closed without any discipline. His supervisors noted he was committed to protecting affluent neighborhoods, but also sometimes questions residents without sufficient basis. Those observations never actually led to any real consequences. When Webb heard the dispatch about the residences at Back Bay, his mind immediately created a story. Burglary happening right now, black suspect, luxury building. This was serious. This could be a solid arrest. He pulled up to the building at 7:18 p.m., parking right out front. He walked into the lobby where Michael, the doorman, was sitting at his desk. Officer, can I help you? Got a report of a burglary suspect. Black male, gym clothes, carrying a bag. Michael looked confused. That sounds like Mr. Davis from 812. He just came in from the gym. He's been living here for years. I need to check it out. What floor? 8th floor, but officer, he's a resident. He's FBI. Webb ignored him and headed straight for the elevator. In his mind, the doorman was either mistaken or covering for someone. A black man in a luxury building claiming to be FBI? Unlikely. Probably just a smart criminal. He took the elevator up to the 8th floor. Davis had just reached his apartment door, unit 812, when he heard the elevator ding and the doors slide open. He glanced over and saw a police officer stepping out, looking around, hand resting near his weapon. Davis's stomach immediately sank. He knew right away what this was about. He'd seen it happen far too many times before. He pulled his key card out, ready to unlock his door. Stop right there, hands where I can see them. Davis froze, his key card just inches from the lock. He turned slowly to face Webb, raising both hands up to chest level. What's the problem? I'm just unlocking my door. You're being detained. We got a report of someone breaking into this building. Davis felt that familiar mix of rage and disbelief wash over him. Breaking in, I live here, unit 812. My name is on the lease. It's on the mailbox downstairs. I used my key card to get into the building. But Webb had already made up his mind about what he was looking at. A black man in a building where a resident claimed he didn't belong. The key card could be stolen. Claims about living here could be lies. This fit the profile of a slick burglar. Davis slowly reached into his gym bag, making sure to keep every movement visible. He pulled out his FBI credentials, black leather case, gold badge, identification card with his photo, name, and badge number all clearly displayed. He He held it up, keeping his other hand raised. Webb glanced at the badge. Davis waited for the apology, for Webb to realize this was a huge mistake, for this nightmare to finally end so he could just shower and eat. But Webb's jaw tightened. Anyone can buy a badge online, turn around and put your hands behind your back. It's real, call it in, verify it, don't make this worse. I said turn around, I'll decide what gets verified. This is where bias overrides absolutely everything. Officer Webb had responded to a call about a black man in a luxury building. When he showed up, he saw a black man. In his mind, that confirmed the call. The FBI credentials weren't proof of anything legitimate. They were fake, stolen, or irrelevant, because Webb simply couldn't imagine a black man actually living in a $4,800 per month apartment in Back Bay. Should officers be required to verify residency before arresting people in their own homes? Let me know what you think. Davis kept his voice as controlled as possible. Those are legitimate FBI credentials. I am Special Agent Kenneth Davis. I've lived in Unit 812 for 4 years. My name is on the lease on the mailbox in the lobby in the building security system. The doorman knows me. I have my key card. You can verify all of this in 2 minutes by calling building management or just checking with the front desk. Webb pulled out his handcuffs. We'll verify it at the station. At the station, I'm standing at my own apartment door. Check the mailbox, check the lease. My driver's license matches this address. Turn around. Check my mail in the slot right there. It's addressed to Kenneth Davis, Unit 812. Check the resident directory downstairs. Call building management. Don't do this. I said turn around now. By now, other residents had come out of their apartments, hearing all the noise. An older white couple from 810, a young white woman from 814. They stood in their doorways, watching. The woman from 814 spoke up. Officer, that's Ken. He lives there. I've been his neighbor for 2 years. The older man from 810 nodded in agreement. We see him all the time. He's very quiet, never causes any problems. Webb ignored them completely. Sir, last warning, hands behind your back. Davis looked at his neighbors, at his apartment door just 6 feet away, at the key card still in his hand that proved he had authorized access. He'd been an FBI agent for 17 years. He'd arrested murderers, fugitives, violent criminals, and now he was about to be arrested for coming home from the gym. I'm complying under protest, Davis said loudly, making absolutely sure everyone in the hallway could hear. I am Special Agent Kenneth Davis, FBI. I live in Unit 812. My name is on the lease in the mailbox. I have key card access to this building. This officer is arresting me for entering my own home while black. Everyone here is a witness. Webb grabbed Davis's arms and pulled them behind his back. The handcuffs clicked shut tight. The metal dug into Davis's wrists, which were still sore from his workout. The woman from 814 had her phone out, recording. This is wrong, he lives here. Webb marched Davis toward the elevator. As they passed Davis's apartment door, Webb looked right at it, clear as day. A small nameplate right next to the door, reading K. Davis. Webb saw it and kept walking. They took the elevator down to the lobby. Michael, the doorman, immediately stood up when he saw Davis in handcuffs. Officer, what are you doing? That's Mr. Davis. He's a resident. I told you he lives here. Step back, sir. But he's FBI. He's lived here for 4 years. His name is in our system. Webb ignored him and walked Davis straight out to the patrol car. Residents standing in the lobby froze, watching. Some had their phones out, recording. Davis sat in the back of the patrol car, handcuffed, watching through the window as Michael, the doorman, came outside trying to explain. Watching other residents gather, confused and angry. Watching his building, his home, fade from view as Webb drove away. Why do some people see black people in nice buildings and automatically assume they must be criminals? Comment your thoughts. The drive to the station took 16 minutes. Davis spent the entire time mentally documenting everything. Times, statements, witnesses, the neighbors who spoke up for him, the doorman who tried to stop it, the nameplate on his door, the key card in his hand, the mailbox with his name on it, all of it ignored. They arrived at the station. Webb walked Davis inside, still in handcuffs, past the booking desk where a sergeant looked up with immediate concern. Webb, what do you have? Burglary suspect, caught him trying to get into apartments at the residences at Back Bay. The sergeant, Marcus Robinson, one of the few black sergeants in the entire department, stood up slowly. Trying to get into apartments, he was at an apartment door with a key card. Robinson's eyes narrowed. Did you verify whether he lived there? The resident who called said he didn't belong. That's not what I asked. Did you verify? Davis spoke clearly. Sergeant Robinson, I am Special Agent Kenneth Davis, FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, Boston Field Office. I live at the residences at Back Bay, Unit 812. I've lived there for 4 years. I was coming home from the gym when Officer Webb arrested me in my own hallway. My name is on my mailbox, on my apartment door, and in the building security system. My key card gave me authorized access. The doorman vouched for me. My neighbors vouched for me. Officer Webb ignored all of it and arrested me anyway. Robinson's face went hard. He showed you identification. Webb pulled the FBI credentials from his pocket, claims to be FBI. Robinson took the credentials and looked them over carefully. He'd been a cop for 20 years. He'd worked alongside federal agents before. He knew exactly what real FBI credentials looked like. These were real. Webb, these are legitimate. Could be fake. They're not fake. Robinson looked at Davis. Agent Davis, badge number. Davis recited it, along with his supervisor's name and the Boston field office phone number. Robinson picked up the phone and called the FBI. Confirmation came back in 90 seconds. Special Agent Kenneth Davis, active duty, Violent Crimes Task Force, 17 years of service. Home address confirmed at the residences at Back Bay, Unit 812. Robinson hung up and called the building's management company. They confirmed Davis had been a resident for 4 years, always current on rent, no issues, keycard access fully authorized. Robinson hung up and turned to Webb, his voice ice cold with fury. You arrested an FBI agent in his own home after his neighbors vouched for him, after the doorman told you he lived there. You didn't verify residency. You didn't check the mailbox. You didn't call building management. You just saw a black man and decided he didn't belong. The 911 caller said. The 911 caller was wrong, and you didn't verify anything before you cuffed him. Robinson unlocked the handcuffs himself. Agent Davis, I am deeply sorry. This is inexcusable. Davis rubbed his wrists. The red marks were clearly visible. I need the body camera footage. I need the 911 call recording. I need witness statements from my neighbors and the doorman. I need to speak with internal affairs immediately, and I want to know who made that 911 call. A captain arrived, Catherine Walsh, a 25-year veteran who'd been fighting against racial profiling for years. Agent Davis, I'm Captain Walsh. What happened tonight should never have happened. Davis's voice was controlled but hard. Captain, I'm an FBI agent. I've lived in that building for 4 years. I pay $4,800 a month in rent. My name is on my mailbox. I had a key card. The doorman knows me. My neighbors vouched for me. And I was arrested in my own hallway because some racist resident decided I looked suspicious, and Officer Webb decided she was right without checking a single fact. Walsh turned to Webb, badge and weapon, administrative leave, now. Captain, I was responding to a 911 call. You arrested a man in his own home without verifying residency. Give me your badge. Webb handed them over, finally understanding the full weight of what he'd done. Should officers face automatic termination for arresting someone in their home without verifying residency? Drop your answer. Within 4 hours, the videos had gone viral. The neighbor from 814 posted her hallway footage. Other residents posted lobby footage showing Davis being walked out in handcuffs. The doorman, Michael, posted on social media about trying to stop the arrest. FBI agent arrested in his own apartment building hallway. Black federal agent handcuffed at his door after showing badge. Officer says anyone can buy a badge online. Boston cop arrests FBI agent in his home despite neighbors vouching for him. The outrage was explosive. The FBI issued a formal statement. The NAACP demanded accountability. The Department of Justice opened a civil rights investigation. The residences at Back Bay issued an apology and launched an investigation into which resident had made the false 911 call. The lawsuit named Officer Jason Webb, the Boston Police Department, Patricia Wentworth, the resident who called 911, and the residences at Back Bay. The claims were extensive: unlawful arrest without probable cause, false imprisonment, racial profiling and discrimination, violation of federal civil rights, illegal entry into a residential building without a warrant, failure to verify basic facts before making an arrest, intentional infliction of emotional distress, failure to properly train and supervise officers with documented discriminatory patterns. The evidence was overwhelming: body camera footage, civilian videos, building security footage, doorman testimony, neighbor testimony, lease agreements, mailbox records, keycard access logs. Completely, utterly, catastrophically indefensible. The city settled within 11 months, $7.4 million. The building's insurance company paid an additional $800,000 for allowing the false 911 call to go forward without any verification. Officer Jason Webb was fired 9 weeks after the incident. The termination letter was final and left no room for interpretation. Officer Webb arrested a federal agent in his own home based solely on racial profiling, refused to verify residency despite multiple sources of confirmation, ignored witness testimony from neighbors and building staff, and demonstrated a pattern of discriminatory policing documented across 15 complaints. Employment terminated immediately. Webb's name was entered into the National Decertification Index, career over at 33. Patricia Wentworth was identified as the 911 caller and named in the lawsuit. She was asked to leave the residences at Back Bay. Her reputation was destroyed. Special Agent Davis testified at City Council hearings. I'm an FBI agent with 17 years of service. I live in a luxury building where I pay nearly $5,000 a month in rent. I've been a resident for 4 years, and I was arrested, handcuffed in my own hallway, because a racist neighbor decided I didn't look like I belonged, and Officer Webb agreed with her. He paused. I had my key card, my name on the mailbox, my neighbors vouching for me, the doorman trying to stop it. None of that mattered because Officer Webb saw a black man in a nice building and decided I must be a criminal. Another pause. If this can happen to me in my own home with my FBI badge and my neighbors defending me, what happens to every other black person who gets profiled in their own building? People who don't have federal credentials. This isn't about one officer or one racist resident. This is about a system that documented 15 complaints and did nothing until Webb arrested someone who could fight back. Should apartment buildings face liability for allowing racially motivated 911 calls without verification? Drop your answer. The Boston Police Department faced brutal scrutiny. 15 complaints in 8 years, 13 involving black individuals, 6 sustained. How was Webb still on patrol? Why hadn't supervisors stepped in after the 3rd incident, the 5th, the 10th? Internal Affairs conducted a full review. Their findings revealed rot throughout the system. Complaints were tracked individually but never analyzed for patterns across an officer's career. Sustained complaints resulted in minimal consequences, written warnings, training sessions that changed nothing. Supervisors noted concerns and evaluations, but took no action to remove problematic officers from street duty. The department prioritized keeping officers on patrol over protecting community members from discrimination. A culture that treated racism as individual bias requiring training, rather than disqualifying conduct requiring termination. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights investigation confirmed these findings and identified similar patterns with dozens of other officers. Sweeping reforms were announced: automatic desk duty for any officer with 3 or more sustained complaints related to discrimination, immediate termination for officers with 5 or more discrimination complaints, regardless of whether they were sustained, mandatory verification of all federal law enforcement credentials before any arrest, required consultation with building management before any arrest for trespassing or burglary in residential properties. Body camera footage review within 24 hours of all arrests, independent civilian review board with subpoena power, quarterly pattern analysis of all officer stops and arrests, flagging racial disparities, public database of officer complaint histories. Special Agent Kenneth Davis's testimony was raw and powerful. I'm an FBI agent. I've spent 17 years fighting violent criminals, tracking fugitives, protecting communities. And I was arrested, handcuffed, humiliated, violated for coming home from the gym while black. He paused, his voice heavy with emotion. I had my key card, I had my FBI credentials. The doorman tried to tell Officer Webb I lived there. The building manager tried to verify everything. None of it mattered because Webb had already decided what he was looking at. A black man in a nice building, guilty until proven innocent. Actually, guilty even after proven innocent. Another pause. My daughter is 17 years old. She watched her father, who she's always been taught to respect, who wears a badge, who upholds the law, get treated like a criminal for doing nothing wrong. She had nightmares for weeks. She's in therapy now. She's afraid of police. That's what Officer Webb did. That's what your department's failure to discipline him enabled. He looked around the council chambers. I had my key card, my name on the mailbox, my name on my door, the doorman vouching for me, my neighbors vouching for me, my FBI credentials. None of it mattered because Webb had already decided what I was, a black man in a nice building, therefore a criminal. Another pause. My home was supposed to be my sanctuary, the place where I could relax after chasing murderers and fugitives. Now every time I walk into that building, I remember being handcuffed in my own hallway. I remember my neighbors watching me get arrested. I remember the doorman begging the cop to stop and being ignored. That's what racial profiling does. It destroys your sense of safety, even in your own home. He looked directly at the council members. I had the resources to fight back. I had the FBI behind me. I had witnesses and videos and proof. But what about every other black person who gets profiled in their own building? People who don't have a badge or resources or institutional support. How many of them get arrested, harassed, or worse, and nobody ever knows because they can't fight back? The room was silent. This isn't about one bad officer or one racist neighbor. This is about a system that documented 15 complaints, 15, and did nothing. A system that allowed Patricia Wentworth to call 911 on a black man using a key card without any consequence. A system that taught Officer Webb that black people in nice buildings are suspicious by default. If we don't fix that system, then my lawsuit means nothing. The reforms mean nothing. Because there's another Webb out there right now, stopping another black person in their own building, making the same racist assumptions. Should police departments face federal oversight after failing to discipline officers with multiple discrimination complaints? Drop your answer. This wasn't just a wrongful arrest. This was proof that for black people, even your own home isn't safe from racism. Kenneth Davis had his key card, his name on the mailbox, his name on his apartment door, 4 years of residency, current rent payments, the doorman vouching for him, neighbors vouching for him, his FBI credentials. None of it mattered because Patricia Wentworth saw a black man and called 911, because Officer Webb saw a black man and decided the white woman caller must be right, because both of them couldn't imagine, refused to imagine, that a black man could legitimately live in a luxury building in Back Bay. This is how racism operates in residential spaces. It's the assumption that black people don't belong in nice buildings. It's seeing a black person with key card access and assuming it's stolen. It's calling police on your neighbor because they don't look like what you think a resident should look like. And when that racism is backed by the authority to arrest, to handcuff someone in their own hallway, to ignore every piece of evidence proving residency, it doesn't just violate civil rights. It destroys the sense of safety that makes a place home. Jason Webb's career is over. That's justice. Patricia Wentworth's reputation is destroyed. That's consequences. The city paid $7.4 million. That's accountability. But money doesn't undo the violation of being arrested at your own door. It doesn't restore the feeling that your home is your sanctuary. It doesn't erase the knowledge that your neighbor saw you and called police because you're black. The real question is, what changes now? Do police departments finally remove officers after 5 complaints instead of 15? Do buildings finally train residents not to call police on black neighbors? Do we finally acknowledge that black people belong everywhere they can afford to be? Because if we don't fix the system that kept Webb on patrol despite 15 complaints, if we don't address the culture that taught Wentworth to see a black resident and call 911, then we're just waiting for the next arrest, the next violation, the next person traumatized in their own home. Comment if you believe this should be law. Residents who file false police reports based on racial bias face mandatory fines and potential eviction. And if you think these stories need to be told, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exposing these patterns. We're going to keep demanding better. We're going to keep fighting for black professionals who deserve to live in their homes without being criminalized. This isn't just about one officer, one resident, or one agent. It's about all of us and the world we're willing to accept.